He was shouting at me, I was shouting back at him. It wasn't nice, it wasn't pleasant at all. And he snapped, and he pushed me to the floor.
It's no secret that Prince William and Harry no longer speak to each other. The real reason? Years of resentment and buried grudges. Back when Princess Diana was alive, the boys were inseparable. But over time, something changed. They drifted apart, and eventually they became enemies. But what caused their brotherhood to collapse? When did it start? Why does Harry hold such deep anger toward William? And what made William once grab his brother by the collar and knock him to the floor? Now, a royal photographer has finally broken the silence. He shared a rare photo from 2008 and revealed what happened that day. And suddenly everything makes sense. The signs are growing clearer. Princes William and Harry are no longer brothers as they once were. Between them lie years of silence, resentment, and cold glances. And yet, just recently there was the slightest glimmer of hope. In an emotional BBC interview recorded in California, Prince Harry didn't speak with rage, but with something else. Quiet exhaustion. The defiance was gone. What remained was regret. "I would love a reconciliation with my family," he said. "There's no point in fighting anymore. Life is precious." But Harry also admitted, "My father won't speak to me because of this security stuff. I don't know how much longer my father has." The prince was referring to a legal case he had just lost. The UK court had ruled that Harry and his family were not entitled to the same police protection they once had. After the verdict, Harry told the BBC, "I just can't see a world in which I would bring my wife and children back to the UK at this point." He said that even though he had had many disagreements with some of his family, he had forgiven them. It was the first time he had talked about forgiveness, and after so much silence and tension, it felt like a small step toward peace. But the palace didn't budge. They simply replied that the courts had already thoroughly investigated everything, and nothing had changed, which is to say that nothing will change. And yet, behind the lawsuits, the Netflix series, the memoirs, and the headlines, something more profound is happening, because this isn't just a story about the royal family, it's a story about Prince Harry himself. Royal biographer Tina Brown says Prince Harry's emotional struggles run far deeper than we ever knew. In her book The Palace Papers, Brown reveals that Harry's former girlfriend, Cressida Bonas, first saw what others didn't dare to name: Harry's uncontrolled, explosive temper. Cressida began to have serious concerns about his mental health. It's not widely known that she was the one who first convinced Harry to see a therapist. A family friend told Brown that Cressida forced the prince to accept he had problems and see a psychoanalyst. Harry eventually turned to Julia Samuel for help, a therapist who had been close to Princess Diana and who also worked as an NHS bereavement counselor. But Julia had another distinction. She was a consultant for MI6, the British intelligence agency. There was a need for someone who could be incredibly discreet. A source close to Harry told Brown, someone who understood what it's like to have a public life and a private life at war with each other. With her help, Harry began to confront the grief he'd been avoiding since childhood. The grief of losing his mother, the guilt, the anger, the shame, the wild behavior and champagne-fueled nights that covered it up. "I refused to think about my mom," Harry admitted, "because why would that help?" Cressida had seen it all firsthand. One moment in particular stayed with her. It was a quiet New Year's Day lunch at a pub near Oxford. A kind older man approached Harry and politely asked for a photo. Harry snapped, "Get out of my way," he shouted, his face red with rage before storming out of the pub. That wasn't just a bad day, it was a pattern, and over time that pattern pushed away nearly everyone around him. He has mental health struggles, fights with his father, jealousy toward William, a Netflix series, a physical fight, an eviction, and an interview with Oprah. All of that came later, but what caused it all? What was the moment that turned these two brothers into enemies? When did the bond break and why? Why did Harry accuse William of betrayal? Why did William grab Harry by the collar and throw him to the floor? To find out, we have to go back, far back, to the moment a royal photographer captured something no one else had seen, the very instant everything began to unravel. Have you ever wondered what royals eat? I've always been curious about that, so I created a cookbook. It's called Elegant Main Dishes and is inspired by the real meals enjoyed by European royal families. Inside, you'll find simple and tasty recipes. Some are great for everyday dinners, others are perfect for holidays and special moments. I was inspired by the favorites of Kate Middleton, Prince Charles, Grace Kelly, and many other royals. If you'd like to bring a little royal flavor into your own kitchen, the book is available now on Amazon in both Kindle and hardcover. Just click the link below this video. The story of Princes William and Harry isn't just a story of two brothers, it's a story about a system, one that crowns one child the heir and marks the other as the spare, and no matter how hard their parents tried, that feeling was impossible to ignore. Princess Diana and Prince Charles were never truly in love. Their marriage was distant, cold, and formal, arranged by tradition, not affection. But as parents, they tried. Despite their own struggles, they worked hard to give their son some version of a normal, loving childhood. From the outside, it seemed like William and Harry had everything equally: the same nannies, vacations, and birthday cakes. Two little princes side by side. But Harry always felt it deep down. He was different. In Spare, he doesn't hold back. I was the shadow, the support, the plan B. I was brought into the world in case something happened to Willie. I was summoned to provide backup, distraction, diversion, and if necessary a spare part, a kidney perhaps, blood transfusion, a spag of bone marrow. It's harsh, but it's real. That's how the monarchy works. One son is raised to be king, the other is raised just in case. Even in childhood, Harry noticed the difference. The way people looked at William, the expectations, the symbolism, and the future. William was important, Harry was just there, and yet in those early years their bond was still strong. The death of their mother brought them even closer. They walked side by side behind her coffin. They heard the crowds chanting, "We love you, Diana." They held it all in together. For a moment they were a team, a unit, but time passed, and that unity began to fracture. In Spare, Harry shares a painful memory from his teenage years. He had just joined Eton College, the elite boarding school where William was already a student. Harry hoped this would bring them closer, meals, classes, and late-night conversations. But William had other plans. "He told me to pretend we didn't know each other," he said. "Every time I tried to approach him, he'd turn away. He hated it when anyone made the mistake of thinking us a package deal." Harry says he wanted to share things with his brother, to be close. But William, in his words, was simply indifferent. This wasn't just teenage moodiness, it was the first sign of something deeper. William was pulling away and Harry was being left behind. From that moment, a silent distance began to grow. They still appeared together in photos. They still smiled for the cameras. But something between them had shifted. The closeness they once shared was quietly slipping away, and Harry knew it. "We weren't brothers, not in that moment," he would later write. "We were strangers, and I felt it like a wound." At that point, the damage wasn't permanent. There was still a way back. They were still brothers, but the crack was there, and one day it would split wide open. In the next chapter, we'll return to a single photograph, taken in 2008, the moment when brotherhood turned into silence, the moment everything changed. Sometimes a feud between loved ones doesn't happen overnight. It grows slowly from unspoken resentments, from wounds that never heal. However, Prince Harry believes there was a precise turning point in his relationship with William. One moment, one day, and he remembers it. There were no other boys around, no other common enemies. Willie and I would turn on each other. Harry wrote in his memoir Spare. According to Harry, the brothers' tension existed from early on. They often fought in the back seat of the car while their father, Charles, drove them somewhere, but one scene stuck in his memory more than any other. It was Scotland, 1999. Harry, William, and their mentor, Marco Dyer, were heading to the River Spey. At some point, an argument broke out, then some pushing, then a full-on fight. They were rolling back and forth in the car, trading blows. Pa swerved to the side of the road, shouted at Willie to get out. Harry stayed in the car. William, angry and humiliated, was forced to walk to the backup car with the bodyguards. Harry recalls, "He was furious. He felt I got away with everything. When the convoy began moving again, Harry looked out the rear window and saw his brother behind them. I could just make out the future King of England plotting his revenge. This wasn't a typical teenage scuffle. It was the first time Harry felt that he was no longer just a younger brother. He was the enemy, and with time the feud only deepened. In 2005, Harry was just 20 years old. He was young, impulsive, and, by his own admission, unprepared for the press's intensity. But that year, something happened that shocked Britain and drove an even deeper wedge between the two brothers. In January 2005, The Sun published a photo that quickly made headlines worldwide. In it, Prince Harry is seen holding a drink in one hand, a cigarette in the other, dressed in a Nazi uniform, a bright red swastika armband wrapped around his sleeve. He wore it to a friend's birthday party, which had the theme of native and colonial. William, also at the party, chose a lion and leopard costume. Harry chose a Wehrmacht uniform, reportedly on William's advice. Harry later admitted, "It was a poor choice of costume, and I apologize if I caused any offense or embarrassment to anyone." But the damage was done. The scandal exploded especially hard because it came just 2 weeks before the 60th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. The world was preparing to mourn, and the Queen's grandson appeared to be mocking history. Jewish organizations in Britain were outraged. A spokesman for the Board of Deputies of British Jews said, "It's not a joke to dress up as a Nazi, especially as we come up to the 60th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. It's important that everyone remembers the evil the Nazis were responsible for." But for Harry, the scandal was not just public, it was personal, and it became another milestone in his feud with William. British reports at the time suggested William was at the party and did nothing to stop him. More than that, he remained silent after the photo went public. Harry took all the blame, alone, and it hurt. Later in Spare, Harry would reflect on this pattern. He was always the spare, always the one pushed out front, always the one to take the fall while the air remained untouched. This was one of the first moments Harry realized his brother would not defend him, wouldn't protect him, wouldn't stand beside him. The public pressure was immense. Harry had to apologize to the entire nation. His place at Sandhurst was questioned. If it was anyone else, their application would be withdrawn, said a former armed forces minister, and all of it happened while William said nothing. Harry got through it, but the bitterness remained. He began to understand how the royal machine worked. If you're not the heir, you're the one they throw under the bus. And this scandal planted a dangerous idea in Harry's mind. I'm on my own, even in my own family. By the way, speaking of health and resilience, I also try to keep track of how I'm doing, especially during stressful times. That's why I use an app called Heartscape. It works as a heart rate monitor and stress tracker. I simply place my finger over the iPhone camera, and within seconds it measures my pulse and shows detailed health patterns, including energy, stress level, and daily readiness. It also indicates health patterns over time, helping me see what's improving and what needs attention. You can download Heartscape now from the App Store. Just follow the link under this video. Sometimes the moment everything changes isn't caught by the eye, the camera catches it. Royal photographer Ian Lloyd, author of The Queen, 70 Chapters in the Life of Her Majesty, spent years photographing the monarchy. He watched Princess William and Harry grow up, laugh, pose, and mature. But he also witnessed the moment when their bond was no longer alive, even if it still looked like brotherly support on the outside. The photo was taken in March 2008 at Oxfordshire's Brize Norton Royal Air Force Base. At first glance it looked unremarkable, a young man in chinos helping load luggage into a car. But that man was Prince William, heir to the throne. And the scene, a moment of historic tension within the royal family. Just days earlier, Prince Harry's deployment in Afghanistan had been accidentally leaked by an Australian magazine. The story went global, and the Ministry of Defense urgently decided to cut short Harry's tour. He was flown back to the UK on the first available flight, arriving on March 1st. Both brothers looked visibly upset. Harry was furious with the British press. Though UK journalists had nothing to do with the leak, Harry saw them all the same as the enemy. William, too, appeared frustrated, and inside the airport he quietly ended Harry's TV interview, sensing his brother had had enough. Then he took Harry's kit and carried it to the car himself. Prince William put an end to Harry's TV interview when he felt his brother had been through enough, and he helped carry Harry's kit to the car. Neither of them looked at the photographers. They didn't smile. They didn't speak. They were united in their anger. No one said it out loud, but the photo said everything. It may have been the last moment William acted like the protective older brother, and the first moment their silence became deafening. Ian Lloyd later reflected, "Nothing to me sums up the strength of the relationship the two boys once enjoyed more than this picture. And yet, in their eyes, something had already broken. This wasn't just a photo of two princes, it was a turning point. This is the moment when the team of Wills and Harry faded, and something darker, colder, and permanent took its place." After 2008, Harry and William showed fewer and fewer signs of closeness. Their smiles looked more staged, their glances more distant. Most of all, there was a silence between them, and it kept getting louder. One telling moment came in November 2010. That month, the world learned that William had proposed to Kate. But Harry, he found out from the newspapers. In his memoir, Spare, Harry wrote, "Soon after we returned to Britain, the palace announced that Willie was going to marry, November 2010. News to me. All that time together in Lesotho, he'd never mentioned it." The press had published romantic stories, claiming that Harry had given William their late mother's sapphire engagement ring to use for the proposal. But Harry called the story absolute rubbish. "I never gave Willie that ring because it wasn't mine to give. He already had it. He'd asked for it after Mommy died, and I'd been more than happy to let it go." The brothers had just spent time together in Lesotho, seemingly a bonding trip, but William hadn't said a word about the engagement. To Harry, it was clear he was no longer being included in the big things. In April 2011, William and Kate got married. On TV, the world saw Harry named as the best man, but that too was mostly for show. Harry revealed, "Despite what the public thought, it was a bare-faced lie that I held this position of honor." He didn't give a speech at the reception. Instead, William's close friends took on that role. Harry understood the desire for privacy. Still, being left out hurt. Then came summer 2013. William was about to become a father. Harry, meanwhile, had launched a project of his own, the Invictus Games for wounded veterans, and for the first time he was doing something independently. William didn't like it, Harry wrote. He reacted with envy. Sibling rivalry. When Harry later got involved in anti-poaching efforts in Africa in 2015, William's reaction was blunt. Africa was his thing. The brothers were no longer a team. Harry was carving his own identity. William was already living in another world. They still spoke, but every exchange felt scripted, and just then someone new entered Harry's life. And from that moment on, the split became irreversible. In the summer of 2016, when Prince Harry introduced his new girlfriend Meghan Markle to the family, he hoped it would mark the joyful beginning of a new chapter in his life. Meghan had already met Princess Eugenie and made a good impression. However, when Harry told William and Kate about the relationship, their reaction was mixed. According to Harry, they were surprised and said they were fans of Suits, the TV show in which Meghan starred. Still, William immediately cautioned him, "Don't rush, take it slow." Harry writes in Spare that when Meghan met William for the first time in October 2016, she went in for a hug, and William recoiled. Harry interpreted this as a culture clash. Still, he believed his brother was genuinely happy for him, but beneath the surface, the distance was already growing. In November 2016, Harry released a strongly worded public statement defending Meghan from press harassment. According to Harry, this outraged both his father and his brother. "Pa and Willie were furious," he wrote. "They gave me an earful. My statement made them look bad," they both said. Why in hell? Because they'd never put out a statement for their girlfriends or wives when they were being harassed. By autumn 2017, Harry was ready to propose, but William was against it. "It's too fast," William warned him. "Too soon." Harry said his brother had even been pretty discouraging about my even dating Meg. In one conversation, William predicted a long list of problems from dating an American actress, a phrase Harry says his brother always made sound like a convicted felon. According to royal biographer Omid Scobie, Harry and Meghan's wedding in 2018 marked the beginning of a more distant phase between the brothers. A few weeks after the wedding, Harry and Meghan were invited to William and Kate's home in a supposed attempt to build bridges. But Harry says the evening ended in a shouting match. William reportedly raised his voice at Meghan and pointed in her face after Meghan remarked that Kate had baby brain, a phrase Kate took as a personal insult. In December 2018, King Charles tried reconciling his sons by encouraging William to invite Harry and Meghan to Anmer Hall for Christmas. William agreed, but according to Scobie, the band-aid didn't hold for long. In early 2019, things exploded. Harry claimed in Spare that William had already shown up at his Nottingham cottage home piping hot. They argued and shouted. Harry told his brother, "Willie, I can't speak to you when you're like this." William allegedly responded by putting down a glass of water, calling Harry a name, grabbing him by the collar, ripping his necklace and knocking him to the floor. "I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me," Harry wrote. "I lay there for a moment dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out." William later asked Harry not to tell Meghan what had happened. "You mean that you attacked me?" Harry asked. William replied, "I didn't attack you, Harold." Harry didn't tell Meghan right away, but later she noticed the bruises and scratches on his back. According to Harry, during the fight, William called Meghan difficult, rude, and abrasive, parroting the press narrative about her. By October 2019, Harry told ITV, "We're on different paths at the moment." In January 2020, Harry and Meghan announced they would step back as senior royals and hoped for a hybrid model. That request was denied. William told the Sunday Times, "I've put my arm around my brother all our lives and I can't do that anymore. We are separate entities." In March 2021, Meghan and Harry's explosive Oprah interview aired. In it, they accused an unnamed royal of raising concerns about Archie's skin color. William fired back during a public appearance. "We're very much not a racist family." The Queen issued her now famous statement. Recollections may vary. They reunited briefly at Prince Philip's funeral in April 2021. Harry recalled that William confronted him about the Oprah interview and his dealings with the press, but then William used their secret code, "on Mommy's life," a phrase that always meant, "believe me." It stopped Harry in his tracks. William insisted he just wanted his brother to be happy. In July 2021, they came together again to unveil a statue of their late mother on what would have been her 60th birthday. That moment was the last time they would be seen together for a long time. When Harry and Meghan returned for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in 2022, the Sunday Times reported that the brothers spent no private time together that weekend. The distance was now undeniable. In September 2022, after Queen Elizabeth II's death, the Windsors shared a rare moment of public unity. All eyes were on William and Harry, who appeared side by side for the first time in a long while. Many hoped that mourning their grandmother might bring the brothers closer together, if only briefly. A brief but meaningful moment was caught on camera during the committal service at Windsor Castle. As the family took their seats in the chapel, Prince William stood at the entrance to the front pew, allowing Harry and Meghan to pass first. A professional lip reader later revealed their quiet exchange. Harry asked, "Shall we go through first?" William nodded and turned to Kate, saying, "Let them go through first." These few words sparked a wave of hope. Outlets like Mail Online reported that the brothers had put aside their feud for a united front to remember the monarch, and proved they could still speak. But time told a different story. The polite gesture remained just that, a gesture. Harry soon returned overseas, and William made no further moves to bridge the divide. In the following months, it became clear that the rift was far from healed. Their paths continued to diverge. Perhaps "shall we go through first" really were the last words the princes said to one another. Perhaps that cold autumn day was not the beginning of reconciliation, but the quiet epilogue to a story of two once inseparable brothers. Now their bond lies buried beneath years of pain, silence, and unresolved resentment. Do you think they will ever reconcile? Tell us what you believe in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more royal stories. Thanks for watching.